I have a confession to make. I'm French. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I don't think I could be French. I don't think I could. Well, I know I can't because I wasn't born there, and I would never want to go there. I don't think they let people become French who aren't have never even been there. So this episode is about France. Now I'm going to try to contain myself because I have very, very strong feelings about France. Um, France is a interesting, silly little country. It's, you know, it's a country. It's a country for sure. I don't think anyone can deny that it's a country. I think a lot of people could deny it's a good country. I would say it's good. I would say France is good. Now, when it comes into that great territory, you know, France has a very, very, very silly history, very, very silly ideas, very, very silly, um, culture's not the right word. What is the right word? They just have silly, silly ideas. Silly, silly ideas. Only in France can they look at bread and say, hey, let's make this like a spiral, like weird, fluffy pastry, you know? Whereas the rest of the world, they just see bread and it's like, oh, it's just sliced bread. My biggest problem with France is the people. Now, like I said, I've never been to France, but I have met French people, both American French, Canadian French, or French Canadian, and people who were from France visiting America. Um, the French Americans are, just regular people. They're just Americans. The French Canadians are also, I mean, they're a little weird because they are Canadian, but for the most part, they're pretty similar to like the French Americans. Now, the French people from France who live in France, you know, when I visit New York, everyone in New York is a little cross. They're a little like mean. I wouldn't say French people are necessarily mean, kind of. They are kind of, or some of them, I should say. This is a huge stereotype, by the way. I'm going to preface that. But I've known French people who come to America and like it's weird. They're on vacation. They're on vacation. But I don't think you could be more miserable on vacation. Basically, they, you know, come over here and we're just saying about how much this place fucking sucks. Which I'm not saying you have to like it, but they also said like they visit like, once a year or once every 2 years. It's like if I hate a place, I don't go back, you know? Like if I'm driving through a new town and I stop at a Walmart and the Walmart is like super ghetto and like I'm getting like stabbed in the parking lot, I probably wouldn't go back to that Walmart. I would just keep driving on. But some people like to do that, They like the ghetto-ness of it all. Now, I don't think America is very ghetto, at least compared to France. But, French people, they like to think that America is kind of like the whipping boy of the world, which we kind of are. But France really doesn't have a ton of room to talk, you know? They got a ton of issues, just as we do, and they're much older than us. They should have their shit together. Now, I know that they went through a revolution, and so their government's newer than ours, but still, the foundations of the country are much, much older than the US. So, they act like they have it all solved, but they don't. And they've had more time to solve it. So like think of it like this way. Like let's say you were taking a test and you got, a 95, and your buddy, let's call your buddy France, got like a 97 or a 98. Now, you got a 95, France got a 98. Your buddy France, this is not a country, it's a guy named France, got a 98. That's a 3-point difference. But you only studied for the week before the test. France studied for 6 months before the test. So yes, France did better than you on the test. But France has also been studying a lot longer than you have. So it's not really that impressive. It's impressive on the surface. You take a look at the test scores, you say, okay, France is better than me. But then you look at the whole picture and you're like, wow, France fucking sucks. 6 months, they should have 100%. They should have gotten every single question right. You know, I don't know. Just my own thoughts on that. That's pretty much most of Europe too. We spend in America, we spend our time like prosecuting murderers and school shooters and like, pedophile billionaire, or we don't prosecute them, but we have them here. Um, and then the EU and Europe and everything, they're just like removing the lightning cables from iPhones and replacing it with like USB-C. Like that's their issues. So, we have our issues dealing with like the most horrific people ever killing each other. And then, France is swapping out the iPhone chargers. The world has different priorities. The world has different priorities. So think on that. Think on that. If there are any French people watching this, I obviously, when I say that French people are stuck up, that is a stereotype. Not all French people are stuck up. But my God, I was shocked about the behavior of, I don't even remember his name. It was probably something French. It was like, started with an L. Like Lehman? No, that doesn't sound right. Lemon? I don't know. But he was not a very fun guy to be around, not very fun. So, shout out to Lehman or whatever his name was. Hope you're watching this, buddy. Hope you're enjoying it in your little shithole. So, that should be that. I appreciate you listening to this, and I will see you tomorrow.